right? Now you can see I am suggesting for different categories of people, different qualifications, but the qualifications that I have mentioned, one is CFA, one is FRM, one is CA. Hi guys, and welcome to this video, and we're going to be discussing the top finance courses in India, which with a little twist in understanding whether that kind of course actually fits your requirement or not. Not everything which is there in the market is going to fit your requirements, right? Just like not the same kind of clothes is going to suit on every kind of a person. In the same way, not all the courses, not all the qualifications are going to really make sense for you, and that's very important for you to understand, because unless you understand this, then you will be wasting a lot of time going into circles and understanding that finally it doesn't really make sense, right? So first, let's understand what's your fit. So if you can see on the screen, you can clearly see I've put in 4 basic matrices, right? First is undergraduate commerce. That means you're currently in graduation, you're pursuing a graduation. And second is you've already graduated, working in the industry, whether you're in the wrong job or the right job, right? Third is you are an MBA, you're pursuing an MBA probably, but you're not from, let's say, the top 25 premium Ivy League colleges. So that's one situation. And the fourth quadrant is basically about a person who probably is interested in finance, but let's say did not start very relevant. Let's say he's an engineer, he's a BSc mathematics, or let's say he's from BSc chemistry background, or even if he's BA economics, or even if he's BA literature, right? So fourth quadrant, and you can clearly make out how is it even possible for any or all of the courses to actually fit everyone's requirement, right? And that's where you can save a lot of money and be on the right track to choose the right qualification, right? Or the skill, right? So first, let's understand the different requirement in terms of a timeline, so that this fit again gets properly classified into your needs, right? So if let's say you're pursuing a graduation at the moment, so you do require one qualification in your lifetime, a respectable, reputed qualification, whether it's an MBA tier 1, whether it is a CA, whether it is CFA, is totally dependent on my interest or at the moment what is accessible to me. But you do require one respectable qualification. So if I was in my graduation in my second year, probably this is something that I would be working on. Second is, once I've done the qualification and now I'm applying for a job, that is one timeline, right? Let's say even after graduation you would have done, let's say, CFA level 1, but now of course you need to get a job, right? So that time skills would come in handy, right? Because you need to clear the interview. Third is, let's say if you're pursuing your MBA, right? Now when you're pursuing your MBA and you know that you're not in a tier 1 college, maybe there might be a situation where the college is not even tier 2. So then you need to understand, okay, probably my qualification is going to be a problem because I'm not going to get that kind of visibility in the industry, and hence probably a qualification and skill together would be needed. If I'm, let's say, from an irrelevant background, or let's say from a non-finance or commerce background like BTech, then of course I need a qualification, because unless I have a qualification, somehow some of the recruiters might have a problem with you not having relevant qualifications. I'm not saying that all the recruiters have the same problem, that all of them have to be from commerce, but yes, to a certain extent it helps me to prove a point that okay, fine, I was from a non-commerce background, but I have now the relevant qualification, and hence you can shortlist me, right? The fifth timeline is when you're already in the industry 3 to 5 years. You can be either in the relevant job, you've got the correct job, you're very lucky, you will keep on skilling. If let's say you are in a profile like sales, which is not in any way saying the sales is bad, but if let's say that's not your interest at the moment and you want to switch, then the requirements will be skills plus qualification if you do not have the qualification already, right? So that's the basic requirement, also understanding from a timeline perspective. Now we're coming to the qualification matrix, right? Now you can see I am suggesting for different categories of people, different qualifications, but the qualifications that I have mentioned, one is CFA, one is FRM, one is CA, ICAI, which is the Indian Chartered Accountant qualification, CMA, CMT, and CPA, right? So these are the names, but let's first understand for an undergraduate pursuing a guy what is suitable. So for him, the qualification that I feel is suitable in terms of the jobs that you're going to be having after graduation is CFA and CA, right? CA, if you're very focused on accounting, in India, if you want to make an accounting career, specifically core accounting, taxation, auditing, etc., and you want to have some repute and you want to have some recognition, then CA is the way to go. But if you do not have that, right, let's say if that's not what your interest is, just like me, when I was in UG pursuing, my interest was not in accounting, neither in law. So my fallback of the qualification was either CFA level 1, because I knew that after CFA level 1, right after graduation, I can apply for jobs, right? And hence, the reason now you might ask that why I'm not suggesting FRM, why I'm not suggesting CMA, why I'm not suggesting CMT or CPA. First of all, FRM is a qualification that a person should do once he has done the CFA qualification already. So he already has a foundation of investments, and then he specializes into risk, right? Hence, I'm not recommending that because you've not even started with the foundation. CMA US, because management accounting jobs at entry levels are not available, right? Hence, it is better to first work in the industry, even in financial accounting for that matter, and then do a qualification of CMA, which will make sense once you have some bit of experience under your belt. CPA, you're any which way is not eligible to do, and hence I'm not recommended CPA for the UG guys, right? Now, let's talk about the candidate who has done the graduation and now wants to switch his career. Maybe there would be many people who would have ended up in job profiles which probably they do not enjoy after 2 to 3 years, right? Let's say sales, although I have nothing against sales, but let's say they've switched into sales, right? Now, if you have switched into sales, now the problem is that you've done your graduation, but since you do not have any respectable qualification with you, then probably CFA, FRM, and CMA might make sense because you already have some experience under your belt. You're able to show that okay, I've done something to prove that probably I'm interested in making my career go forward. So just to prove your worth, at least till the level of the interview is why I have suggested various qualifications. Now, if someone is, let's say, at a senior profile, right, and he's a graduate and now he wants to upskill or probably improve his profile, then any of these would make sense, provided that I'm assuming that you would be in the investment field to do CFA, you would be in the field of risk to do FRM, and you would be in some way connected with FP&A profiles to do CMA, or let's say you are already in technical analysis and you want to add a qualification. So understand that when I'm saying senior relevant, I'm saying you're already working in the field, and now you want to add a qualification for that, right? It's not for switching, right? Hence, these qualifications would make sense. If you're in irrelevant profile at a senior level and you want to switch, then of course for investment banking kind of a profile, you would need CFA. And let's say for costing kind of FP&A, corporate finance kind of a role, you would require CMA US. Reason being, it's short. It's not that intensive. It can be done parallel with your current job. And CPA if somebody wants to wants to work with Big 4 US accounting profiles, right? So that's the basics of qualification. Now let's jump to the skills, right? We cannot combine and understand both of them together because these are two separate issues, right? Now, if you're UG, start with something like a financial modeling skill, which gives you a great background with essential skills like Excel, financial mathematics, understanding of financial statements properly, basics of valuation. It will give you a very nice foundation in investment banking, right? If you're not bent towards investment banking or equity research or core finance for that matter, and if you're a little bent towards accounting, then do a tally course, because any CA firm would willing to give you internship even at the undergraduate level, if you at least know the software which they're going to use, which is Tally, right? And also basic understanding of GST, because the first work that they're going to give you would probably be related to GST filing, right? Second is, if you're in PG Tier 2, the same concept applies even for PG Tier 2, right? Nothing different. Financial modeling, Tally, or GST, right? There are hundreds of others, skills which can be picked up in finance, but all of them would not be relevant. Another thing is, you can see that I do not recommend SAP. The reason why I do not recommend SAP or ACAM certification or Power BI is because these jobs are at senior levels. These jobs are not at junior level. Even for SAP, if you just go and do a simple Google search on SAP jobs in India, you will see that most of these job requirements require 1 to 2 years of experience. So you're basically doing something which doesn't even make sense, right? Now let's look at graduate persons switching into a different profile. We already discussed this, by the way, in the previous slide related to qualification. Now we are hinting on towards the skill. So graduate switch again. You could, if you're in investment banking equity research side, then you could do financial modeling. If you are bent towards accounting, then SAP would make sense, because this you would have some experience under your belt. And Tally, if you're shifting into a specific accounting profile which requires Tally as the minimum skill, right? Now if you in the relevant profile, now you already, let's say, working with a SAP based company and you do not have the SAP certification, then of course, by all means do the SAP certification. If you are already working in AML KYC, even if you're working in a domestic process, then ACAM certification might make sense, right? If you're already working in accounting and you don't have the Tally certification, then by all means do the Tally certification. If you're already working in visualization and research and market research, then by all means do Power BI, right? And if you are in irrelevant profile, again, in case of irrelevant profile, we are talking about switching, right? So when you're switching, you would need qualification plus the skill. So if you are, let's say, in sales profile 10 years down the line, now you want to switch into research, then of course you would need financial modeling as well as CFA in order to even clear the interview. But and the same would go with, let's say, AML KYC kind of a profile, where a person wants to shift into let's say AML KYC process, or wants to become a manager in an AML KYC process, then he needs to do the various different certificates. Discuss on the sequence of doing these courses and skills. So first of all, you need to start with skill learned during graduation, right? And then you add a qualification to it, right? Most likely graduation is a good time to do that, even if you're part qualified. Then you want to work and you want to apply to work in the same field in which you are done the qualification, right? Then post that, as the job requirement keeps on coming, you would want to skill up or add qualification, depending upon whether you have done the graduation, we have done the skilling or the certification in that field or not, right? Now post that, we're talking about lifelong skilling, right? Now lifelong skilling is essential, because, and I'm not saying just picking up random things and doing certifications on it, but as and when you work in a certain field, you realize that there is another level to it, and in order to do another level to it, you can't really say that I will not do it or I'll not learn it, because you will have to eventually learn it. Otherwise you will become outdated in the market and you will not understand all the things which are going in the market, right? So you will have to update yourself, and that is an endless cycle. And not necessarily all of this lifelong skilling does not have to be a valid certification that you have to take from a recognized institute. It can be through a YouTube video, it can be through Udemy courses, it can be through short self-study books, whichever method will suit you, right? Now, which type of course at various stages, right? So if you are at an undergrad level, or you're pursuing some education, or if your course is related to finding a job or switching a job, then you need a course which also provides you with placement services, or a course which also provides you with job assistance along with an online training, right? If it's only about a qualification, and online or offline is a personal preference, but just doing CFA level 1 would really not make sense, because you would require placement services after that. And many students actually, go and take coaching from CFA coaching institutes, but then eventually realize that probably the institute is not good enough to even place them. And then they again, go back to the same circle of finding jobs, which is not what happens. So you should try to look for institutes which can offer placements or have a record of providing good interviews opportunities to the candidates. Right? That's the second step. Lifelong skilling does not require a proper coaching, although if you get, and if you're willing to spend that kind of money, obviously you can do it. But since this kind of upskilling usually happens in bits and pieces, you can use self-study books, videos, just tutorials, and that should be more than enough, because you're not really looking for any opportunities after this, because you're already working in that field, and hence you just require the skilling part. So that's a very comprehensive, I would say, advice on how to select and what kind of courses in India a candidate can do related to finance and accounting. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the comments box. I will be happy to answer those. And I hope this video helps. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.